I've always been more comfortable on stage than I have been in real life. I don't know why, and I don't care to at the moment, but I've been away from the stage for so long that I feel like a duck without rain. I'm starting to miss a part of myself. So I've been working on my performance. I've been building a new show. And with that, I've been studying, brushing up on old skills, and I want to share with you just a few tips, a few tricks that I have for making my show and your show a little bit better. I was looking back on Caroline Polachek's performance at the Sydney Opera House, and she demonstrates so many amazing qualities of a live performance. So I may dip into her show to break down some of these tricks to show them off to you. The first one I'm going to talk about is balancing expression and power. The most basic thing you can do on a stage is move or not move. You might be stuck behind a microphone stand, you might be holding a guitar or a piano. That sucks for you. You're going to need different techniques. But if you are a singer and you're able to move around, this choice makes a big, big difference. Standing in position gives you a lot of power in the eyes of an audience. A solid stance does a lot to project power and control, which can make new audiences come to trust you a little bit more because they kind of feel like you deserve to be on that stage. Yes, you can stand awkwardly. I have seen and I have stood awkwardly so many times on a stage, and it's just made me look out of place. But if you can get your stance solid, plant your feet in the ground and sing from there, that gives you a lot of power. But it's kind of boring. So you need to move around. This is where the second aspect that needs to be balanced comes in: expression. When you walk, when anybody walks, when any creature moves, it tells us a lot about that creature. How they move their hips, do they drag their feet, how wide is their step, how do they hold their head, where do they look, how quickly do they step. All of these things communicate aspects of your personality. And let's say for Caroline Polachek, for instance, she's got this very flowy freedom style in her movement. So when she moves around the stage, she's like this fairy floating across. Whereas if you get some more hip hop artists, when they move across the stage, the step is heavy. The step is slightly more powerful. And so you can communicate a hell of a lot about who you are or who you're trying to be based on that walk. But this is the balancing act you got to make. If you walk around too much, you kind of show your lack of confidence. You don't know where to be, you don't know where to stand, you don't know where to put your hands. And so all of these things can communicate this lack of confidence. They can communicate a lack of skill, a lack of competence, which can make the audience not trust you, feel unsafe, feel unsure, not quite aware of how skilled you are. So you need to balance these things and be very intentional with your movements. So you can't just wander around the stage floating about like a ghost. You got to pick your points. You got to walk from point A to point B and then plant yourself in that space intentionally. Even if you get to the wrong place, whatever you do, just make it look intentional. And so these two components are your most basic aspects of performing on stage: is you're moving around and you're standing still. Next, we have where you move and stand, your stage positioning. And there's a bunch of different ways you can divide a stage. There's classic upstage, downstage, stage left and right. What we're going to work on with today is 5 basic areas on a stage. You have the far right, the mid right, the center, the mid left, and the far left, where we all want to be. And the center is essentially your home base. This is the place that you begin, it's where you return to, and it's where you finish. It's your safety, it's also your strength, it's powerful, so it's a great place for a big chorus. The midpoints, both left and right, this is where you do most of your verse singing. It's a great place to connect with the crowd more directly. You can aim yourself at different parts of the room to make them feel seen. But this place is kind of indecisive. It's kind of liminal. It's in between extremes, so it can get a little bit boring. It doesn't say an awful lot about you, about your performance, or about the moment in the song. And this is where the fire points become so useful. You can't overuse them, you really can't. But for an emotional climax, or a middle-eight soliloquy, or if you have a theatrical moment, it can be really impactful to bring this to either far end of the stage. Just make sure the lights can reach you. You don't want to headbutt a you don't want to headbutt a speaker in the dark. I have done it before. Third on our list is levels. This is a pretty simple concept, but once you learn about it, you'll never stop seeing it. And so to start with our general natural standing position, this is where we do most of our talking, most of our singing, most of our everything. And then above that, you have a tiptoe stance. And nobody seems to use tiptoes. I don't think I can recall any performer I've seen using their tippy toes to do a performance. Maybe someone like Aurora, maybe. But yeah, people need to use tiptoes more often. Above that, you have a leap. And this is basically high energy moments. If you're a pop punk band in the 2000s, you know what I'm talking about. You jump in the air at a really dramatic moment, and when you land, everybody goes, yeah! That's it. That's all. Below your standing position, you've got that hip hop dip that every other sort of male pop star tries to adopt with varying rates of success. Then you have a squat to go even lower than that. Nobody seems to use a squat. It's a weird position to sing in. I've seen some Eastern European hip hop artists do it, but in general, people don't tend to squat. Maybe they should. And then below the squat, we have probably our two most important levels. This is on your knees and laying flat on the stage. Laying out on the stage is an absolutely huge statement. Don't do this too often, but when you do, make sure that it's at a great moment. This is like some electric guitarist mid solo dropping to the ground, completely overtaken by the music. And when it comes to being on the knees, you've got Jimi Hendrix dropping to his knees to set his guitar on fire. Now, being on your knees has also this amazing cultural baggage, especially if you come from like a Christian country or religious countries where they pray on their knees. There's a lot of power dynamics at play when you get on your knees. So that actually helps a lot with creating emotional moments physically. So if you can figure out how to do a good on your knees moment or a good lay flat moment, you can kind of carry yourself through an entire alt pop career. You'll be fine. And then number 4, we have tableaus. And not enough musicians use tableaus. You need to learn what a tableau is and integrate it into your show right now. This is a physical theater staple. And for our more theatrical musicians like myself, Kate Bush, Caroline Polachek, David Bowie, etc., you will find an amazing use of tableau. They are essentially poses that portray an image. They can be as simple as just an interesting shape that provokes an emotional response when combined with the music. This is your more abstract positioning. This is very David Bowie. Or they can be very literal poses that enact some kind of situation. Again, we go back to this idea of somebody being on their knees. Caroline Polachek in her Sydney show drops to her knees and holds the microphone between two hands in a praying position, which just immediately evokes so much imagery, so much cultural baggage. So either one you choose to use can be very potent. And they are very direct and relatively simple ways to elevate your performance above most musicians. But none of this matters to me at the moment, not right now. The live show that I'm currently building is more of an acoustic set. I'm trying to think of a bookshop or a tiny desk or a sitting room performance. And this is a very different set of techniques for a different day, for a different video. This is using eye contact, it's using silence. It's kind of like the difference between stage acting and screen acting. It's way more subtle, and I find it way more difficult now. I used to be so much better at it, but then my music got bigger, and now I need it to be everything. Okay, I'll chat to you next week. Bye bye.